I'm Audrey.
And I'm Jared.
And today we are so excited to have our first guest on our podcast. We are in Atlanta with my sister Mandy and her husband Aaron and their beautiful little baby.
Hi.
It's good to be here.
So last episode we talked about Jared and I's relationship and somehow we met. And today we get to deep dive into Aaron and Mandy's relationship. So whenever you guys started dating, Mandy, you were in Ohio, and Aaron, you were in Arkansas. And so how in the world did you guys meet?
Yeah. So we both randomly joined a Facebook meme group, and then made some friends through that. And then there were two mutual friends that were like, "Hey, what if y'all would, talk and, might be interested."
Okay, so you all met online before you would have seen each other in person.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
through a mutual friend.
Yes. And I knew the mutual friend in real life.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't
I had met her
only-
once.
Yeah. So it wasn't only online.
Okay.
There's some real life people there,
Mm-hmm.
and then you guys connected online.
Yes.
Okay.
So how was that? Like, was that what you kind of anticipated doing, or?
Not really. Like longer prior, I would have never guessed that I would.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was sort of thinking maybe that would be something I'd be interested in.
Mhm.
Meeting someone online, you're
Yeah.
saying. I see.
Which you had made like some pretty good online friends too.
Yeah, I had
which
made good online
played into
friends
that.
before we started messaging. I was good friends with those people.
Right.
So Mandy, how was it for you? Is that something you anticipated, or how was it like getting that first message or connection?
No, I shrieked. And then I messaged Yvonne because she was the one that told him to message me, and I said, "What in the world? Like, what are you thinking?" But it was really good. I feel like for me that was actually a really good way to get to know him because like we covered some really important things first before we actually met. And the meeting part was always the scariest for me. Or like when I would tend to lock up more. And so this way, like, yeah, it made it easier, I feel like.
You could cover the important things before you actually got to know him in some other ways? Is that what you're saying?
Like in socially and like needing to navigate all those little awkward moments that can happen. So there was like a level of trust before the awkwardness as much. I mean, there was still some, but
It wasn't such a stark contrast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was it like meeting them in real life after meeting online?
Yeah. It was interesting. I flew up to Ohio, so a day of anticipation, my first time flying, so new experience there as well. And then I hadn't seen her car, I think, when I was walking out, so I didn't expect her to be there right then. And then she stopped and was out before I could even prepare.
yeah, I was definitely nervous,
Yeah.
but very excited.
So you guys mentioned messaging on Instagram some. So what did that progression look like? You started messaging through a friend, and then how did you guys start dating?
So we messaged on Instagram for a bit, and then we were messaging enough that I was like, well, should we move this to WhatsApp? It'd be easier. So yeah, we were messaging on WhatsApp, and then eventually we decided to do a video call, and then it was about a week after that I asked her if you wanted to date, and got a response a little faster than I expected. So that was good.
Bingo!
Well, in my defense, we had been messaging for a month at that point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was thinking about it the whole time, like, is this something I want to continue, like, putting time into? Like, does this feel like it's a good thing to pursue? And so when he actually asked then after a month, like, it didn't feel like I needed more time to think about it.
Right.
You actually had like 4 weeks to process it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like how you made your intentions so clear. And I remember throughout the whole process, Mandy, you messaging us, hey, Aaron said, do you want to message? And then the next step, hey, do you want to date? There's something so honorable about that, and not just messaging without clear stated intentions.
I agree. That was very helpful. And partly, I mean, I think that was a huge part of why I felt better about that sort of relationship then.
Mm-hmm. So while you guys were dating, you both moved to Atlanta single.
Mm-hmm.
And what was that like to date away from all your family and your group of friends? Yeah,
Sure.
we want to hear some about that.
Yeah, so for me, I was actually already living in Ohio before that. So I was already away from like my immediate family. I had my aunt and uncle there, so that part was nice. Like they had gotten to meet him and like grandma, but already like my sisters and my close friends that I had for a long time like weren't in that area, and so I feel like that wasn't as hard. It was definitely hard dating away from my immediate family because some of them didn't even meet him till our wedding.
So yeah, so I moved from Arkansas to Atlanta, and so I moved 2 months earlier than you did, and so I had a little more time to make friends here, and also our one mutual friend was here, which she'd become like one of my better friends by that point, somewhat. And then also started to make some friends at church. So, I don't know. I was definitely like away from family.
Okay.
But I did feel like I had a few friends here when we were dating. And then by the time she moved, like I felt like she was my best friend.
Okay.
So maybe being away from family, you still had some of your people around you.
Yeah.
Support in a lot of ways.
So it didn't feel like you were just dating alone in this huge city where you didn't know anybody because you knew some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while you were dating, is there anything in particular that you did that you were so glad that you did?
So one thing that I was really glad for is because we were long distance, we could only talk on the phone basically and message. And so we talked for hours, basically every Sunday, like kind of had like a phone date, would video call, and we covered so many subjects. Like I feel like because we talked so long, we talked about everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot that I was just left guessing about like what he thought about things.
Yeah. Yeah, and talking so long, helped us to get to know each other's personalities better and get over the like awkwardness of some of the awkwardness of first time meeting, even. Just feel more comfortable with each other.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Did that bring like a level of trust into your relationship just because you guys talked about so much?
Yeah,
I would say.
helped us trust each other more and feel more like we're friends.
Yeah. So, moving away from dating into married life. So you've been living in the city for a bit on your own, both of you, and then now you get married. What are some things that you appreciated about each other in those first few months?
So one thing Aaron would do is pretty much every day message me when he was gonna get home, like when he thought he was gonna be home, and then message me when he was on his way home, what his ETA was. And I love that.
So yeah, for me, like after we got married, is kind of when Manny's personality came out more, humor, and we were just enjoying spending time together and adventuring, bike rides, and watching her drive, trying to see if she can be as fast as me.
I'm a better driver.
Just a lot of good getting to know each other better. There's some adjustments to make, and me trying to balance my work hours a little better and different things, but yeah, it was definitely a good year.
It's interesting you brought that up because one of the next questions we're going to ask is like, how did you balance your individuality with each other? Like, okay, you're two different people, two different interests, things that you enjoy doing. maybe even different expectations about what life would be like afterwards. Like, how did you bring that together and still kind of maintain who you are as people?
So probably just like practically would be evenings. Like, how do we spend evenings? Because before, typically we would like go over to one or the other's house and like hang out for a bit, and then the other person would leave and go home. And now like we had all this time, and like I loved watching shows and movies and stuff, and Aaron felt less productive doing that, and so he didn't always want to, and so like we had to navigate like, what do we want to spend our time on? Do we want to play a game? Do we want to just relax? Like
Yeah. And then I had a few woodworking projects in the basement. But yeah, it was took some back and forth to navigate all of that. It's good.
So in seeing like the difference was with you having projects and not wanting to watch movies and shows, but you maybe more liking that relaxing time, like how did you then work that out together?
So we discussed it, and I said like after work I don't always have the energy to do something, and he was like he doesn't always like to watch shows after work, and so we decided to do some of both. Some evenings we would, and some evenings we would do a project or each do our own thing or something.
Yeah, or play games, or a little bit of what helped me be willing to watch shows as much as I did was sort of reframing the whole like need to be productive, and realizing that hey, resting together, watching a show can be productive in its own way. If it helps us to rest, and so that was a helpful part too.
So what advice would you all have for someone who is just beginning a relationship, whether they met online or not?
Yeah. So one thing I would say is to try to communicate clearly. If you're starting to message, like let them know what your intention is with that, and keep it an open question of whether they want to message. And then otherwise, I would say like having a good friend you can talk to process either like disappointments in the relationship or process other things in your life, whatever it is. Having someone else, especially at first, to talk to can be helpful. And
Yeah, so for me I would just say talk about everything, and don't feel like the relationship has to be easy at first. Like, it's okay if it's awkward. It's okay if there's silence. Like, just try to learn how to sit in the silence, and just be okay with being in each other's presence. And one thing I did was just try to think of questions ahead of time. So when we had our long phone calls, I would write down conversation topics, questions I wanted to talk about, and that took more pressure off me in the moment as well. So yeah, just take it as it comes. Be at least somewhat open-minded for it not to look exactly like you maybe thought dating would look. Because I had so many high ideals for dating. Like, it was gonna look a certain way, these were gonna be the rules, or like all the different things, and actually just being willing to navigate it with Aaron, and because he's a whole human too, and he has his ideas, and so like you have to be willing to mesh, and so you have to be willing to be at least somewhat open-minded.
Wow, that is super good. I appreciate that so much. There's so much good advice packed in there, I think, because I think so many times we have so much expectation, or maybe so much expectation from others if it's not even from ourselves, and to navigate that, and just to commit to work together, and walk through that and navigate that is really good. So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate y'all, and appreciate you all giving of yourself in this way. Bye for now.